And then what I omitted to tell you was that in July the 4th of that year, my mother shot and killed my dad. Yeah, they got into some sort of verbal altercation that escalated into, I guess, a more vehement exchange. And my mother basically had brandished a shotgun, and basically she claimed to me that she was just trying to bar the door from my father going through a locked door, and this gun, quote unquote, accidentally went off and it hit him in the abdomen, and he bled out before any sort of medical assistance could come to his aid.
My goodness, Bevis.
Yeah, so I'm going through all of this that summer going into the fall with a certain degree of trauma.
Absolutely.
And I'm dealing with my nuclear family as the eldest of 4 kids.
Yeah.
Right? Although we're all adults by now. It's still a situation where I'm basically trying to circle the wagons.
You're having to be the glue.
On the family bond. Well, to be honest with you, my next younger sister, Stephanie, was really the bonding agent.
Okay.
Because she always had what I call a clear head on her shoulders, you know? So she and I kind of circled the wagon to try to figure out how we're going to deal with legal defense for my mother.
I see.
And I'm only telling you this. I don't really want to go too deep into this particular experience, but I'm just saying it's an underpinning
of everything that was happening.
Yeah, of everything that was happening, because it does kind of shape my behavior subsequent to that. You know what I mean?
Understood.
So I was medicating pretty heavily from that event forward. Although I was trying to maintain as much clarity as I could do, I was still in quite a bit of pain.
How does a human maintain clarity in that situation?
Well, again, you get the cards that are dealt. You know what I mean? And so my thing was, I've just got to keep the wheels on the bus some kind of way.
Yes.
You know? And I'm not speaking to you with any sort of, disclaimer or, psychologically trying to ameliorate any sense of my personal responsibility. I'm just trying to tell you what I did.
Yeah.
And theoretically why I did it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, I got you.
Because it's you can't unring the bell. Right? But yeah, I mean, on the surface, I've got all these things and these prospects, and things are, kind of percolating.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, my heart is like broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm literally kind of disassociated emotionally, like disassociated from so much of it, because there's still this, abysmal feeling of why did that have to happen,
Right. Things were coming into alignment.
Because I may not have even gone into it, because it is a personal side. It's a personal side of my personal story.
Yeah.
Which is to say, everything is not up for grabs, although I have written a lot about this in my autobiography outlines and things of that nature, because it does point back to my whole engagement with like mental health, where I sit today.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? As a practitioner, this is a good place for me to kind of round out the rock and roll side of it. But my point is, there's 3 things to hold firmly in mind, right? It's like, I have like completely bootstrapped myself to the teeth, right? Literally from the time that I was 16 years old to starting my career at 17. It's been me and my sheer gut level will to do it. No books, how to become a rock and roll star.
Right.
None of that stuff.
Just figuring it out.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah.
And the whole thing has been one long scrimmage, for lack of better words, right? And there's no crying in football. There's no crying in baseball. And there's definitely no crying in rock and roll. You take your lumps and you take your kisses and hugs, and you take them all in the same stream of grace. You dig what I mean? Because
yeah.
there's no guarantee that any of it is going to happen for better or for worse. You just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know until you know.
It's life.
So I'm at this kind of what I call inflection point, this really seminal point of my whole reason for moving to New York in the first place is really starting to coalesce in a very hard, tangible, and optimistic way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it was ever pretty, right? Because there was a whole lot of just one step forward, two steps back. 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. 3 steps forward, exponentially, you just keep going. It's like an ebb and a flow, and you're just fighting uphill, fighting uphill, fighting uphill.
The higher the peaks, the lower the valleys.
Yeah, man. I mean, and you just have to be built for it.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, absolutely.
It
takes a special type of person.
Because I use the expression, this kind of lifestyle would make Spock flip out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the most logical, sensible person in the world would be like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
What are you doing?
But as I told you before, Stephen, I can literally taste it. Because now I'm getting ready to meet Jack Douglas, right? Like one of my heroes, so to speak.
Yeah.
So through hell or high water, this has got to happen. So sure enough, the day comes where I'm going to Lynn's office to meet Jack, and we hit it off just like you and I hit it off. We just kind of started talking, and we talked for a little while, and he said, hey, listen, I want to tell you the music that she sent me over is the reason that I'm here. He goes, I'm not trying to, blow any smoke at you. I'm not really sure how any of this is going to play out, but I know I want to be a part of it, is what he said.
Wow.
He goes, I haven't really felt that way until, he said, when I heard you, I hadn't really felt that way since the first time I heard Steven Tyler, is what he said. I said, okay, well, that's a good start.
Yeah. we're off to a good start, man.
You know what I mean? And so it was just a matter of a couple of weeks before he kind of had a plan as to how he wanted to move forward. Now, what I didn't understand was that there were some machinations that were going on from the management side of the table that I wasn't really privy to. Like, I wasn't really sitting in a round table discussion to where we started talking about the finances in a specific way and how accountability or responsibility was going to flow from this, that, or the other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
My attitude about it at the time was still a bit, I'm going to use the expression, naive, right?
Okay.
Because I was of the mindset to where when you start talking to me about a record deal, my idea of a good record deal is where I get this advance, which gives me a specific amount of financial security to kind of stabilize myself as an individual, as a human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
To make sure that my human needs are like in place.
Right.
My lodging, my food and clothing, and my transportation.
Yeah.
Are the principal needs.
Yeah.
My activities of daily living, as you would say. Right? That's the principal aspect of the scale of the advance. Apart from the fiduciary responsibilities that go along with that, which would become the recording obligations and how those are paid for, right? The touring obligations and how those are paid for, right? Because it's extremely expensive to do all of it.
Yeah.
When you take into the equation that the average expenditure for a recording date is $200 an hour.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you're talking on a level of like medical surgery or something, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
It's
well,
high dollar stuff.
it adds up, right?
Mhm.
But you're looking at it through a lens of what I call the status quo,
Hmm.
right? So in the 80s, record deals were common to kind of start at a baseline at around 150,000 and then escalate predicated on expectation. It wasn't uncommon for a band that's never literally, had a track record prior to signing to get, $150,000 to start, for maybe a 3-album guaranteed deal. So the pitch that I got from Jack was this. He had been in a long-standing litigation with the Lennon estate since John Lennon was assassinated because he was literally working with John the day that John was killed. He literally produced the last 3 consecutive John and Yoko albums. The last one, I believe, being Seasons of Glass, right? But their rapport was bonded.
Yeah.
Right? Because, John Lennon can work with anybody.
Absolutely.
He chose to work with Jack.
Yes.
And John's whole thing was basically keeping everything as family oriented as possible because that was the reason that he wanted to leave the Beatles in the first damn place.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Because him and Yoko was the paramount thing in his life and his children.
Right.
Right? So that being said, put this in perspective. When Lennon was assassinated, the first thing that had to happen from a financial standpoint was an audit had to take place to basically coalesce all of John's entitlements globally.
It's a long list.
And in the process of all of those fiduciary rights reverting to Yoko as the sole heir of his estate, right?
Messy.
What had to happen was essentially they had to freeze everything in place until they could get the audit completed, which took years, took several years.
Yeah.
And in the interim, the way that Jack explained it to me was that he hadn't been receiving his royalties on a regular disbursement cycle the way that he had previously, right? According to the contract that he had with John, right? So he had to basically file a suit to get a release of funds that had accrued that he was entitled to.
I see.
Through the label and through their personal
estate
agreement as a production company.
Okay.
Right?
I got you.
And I guess for what it was worth, it just took more time than he was comfortable with. So he had to file this suit to try to get back payments on his royalties, this, that, and the other thing. So that's why he wasn't even out working. The other thing that he told me, and I'm not really going to delve into this because I don't want this to get, misconstrued in a public setting. But he had to go through a period of detox himself from the time that he had spent with Aerosmith, who had become, extremely embroiled
in that life,
in that thing, and he was central to it because you're talking about the man that had been with them through like their zenith period between like I'm going to roughly say 1975 or 1974 up to about 1978. I think he did 5 consecutive albums with them. But during that time, Stephen and Joe became colloquially known as like the Toxic Twins, right? Like their drug appetites were like legendary.
And they had the backings to make it legendary.
Oh, unlimited.
Yeah.
Because they were one of the biggest bands in the entire world. They were like on that tier with the Stones, Led Zeppelin. You know what I mean? They were there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my point was, he explained to me that he had to take personal time
Sure.
to, like, refresh himself, restore himself, get back to his optimum state.
Yeah.
Because he was also impacted heavily by John's assassination.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So that's something that he and I had in common, was this grievance. And we talked about that. You know what I mean? Because he was astute enough to be concerned about my proclivities, like my habits. Like, are you
paying attention?
Yeah, like that sort of thing, right? Because I mean, literally, he had seen it.
Yeah.
So my point was, without him taking a position or a posture towards being like, there was no ultimatums or no conditions that I had to adhere to. You know what I'm saying? Because it could have been, we're going to have whatever, a sober space or this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
None of that ever really was explicit or came into the equation. It was all predicated on common sense.
Yeah.
And what's best for productivity.
Yeah.
Right? Let's
That's
just
fair.
stay focused.
Yeah.
And I basically gave him a handshake that I'm coming in clear.
You had to.
I'm coming in clear because this for me is ground zero.
Yeah. This is the break, right?
You dig what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want anything corrupting my focus on my performance or anything else for that matter. So I'm coming in as clear as possible. But what I can say is, it's also like having a 9-to-5 job, right?
Mm.
When I'm on the clock, I'm on the clock.
Yeah.
When I'm not on the clock, I'm on my time.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
You dig what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm still in New York City. And there's still always another party. And there's always another this, and there's always another that. And at this point, I'm still relatively fresh in the game.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying. I'm not jaded yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm not too jaded to give up an opportunity to go hang out with Jimmy Page or to go hang out with David Bowie or something like that. Like, I'm not going to pass up that.
No. And I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah, I'm going to the Bad Company party. I'm sorry, I'm going.
Yeah, I will be there. Don't worry about me. I'll also be at the studio first thing in the morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You pick your moments, right?
I mean, not a lot of people get to pick the moments hanging out with Jimmy Page or hanging out with, you told me about your story of hanging out with Stevie and Double Trouble at Royal Albert.
Well, that was refreshment. Seeing Stevie was just like, it's like, oh my, it was like a relief. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
yeah,
finally.
Well, it's a taste of home.
Somebody, somebody that understands.
Yeah, that gets you. Yeah, so I don't want to sidetrack us, but yeah.
But we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But my point is this: by now, I'm in the deep end of the pool.
Reality controls me. Laws of nature still apply. Nights follow day and I'm worlds away. In my dreams I fly. Life's an uphill battle. Lose no matter how you fly. Hear my pistol rattle. In my dreams I fly.
So the idea is, okay, what does the shape of the band look like? Because up to this point, like, I'm not like playing the clubs with a set lineup of musicians. I'm using like hired guns, creme de la creme, heavy hitters. You know what I mean?
Are you still toting the Bonsai Kick?
Well, Bonsai Kick is the name of the project.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Gotcha.
I mean, I loved it. Jack loved it. Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
It's fun to say. Bonsai Kick.
Yeah. It's cool. It's a good name.
It's like,
okay. But so you're still, still carrying that.
But the idea is, Jack is thinking in terms of like, okay, so what does it look like? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing he wants us to do is play in front of him.
Yeah.
Before we even get to a studio setting, we want to go to SIR, Studio Instrument Rentals, this kind of where all the big bands rehearse for their national tours.
Right.
So he books this big sound stage for us. You know what I'm saying?
He wants to check out your shapes.
It's exciting. Exactly, though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He wants to
Oh,
see
yeah.
what type of performer I am. Am I a shoegazer? Am I
Yeah.
a maniac? Or
Yeah. You staring at your hand the whole time.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, what is it? You know,
Yeah.
he just needs to know what kind of animal it is. You
Mhm.
know, is it
Okay.
a reptile? Is it a cheetah? Is it a mammal?
Yeah.
Whatever. You know what? He had his reasons.
Mhm.
The point being is because he wants to try to track things as live in the studio as he can do.
Okay.
That's why he's trying to figure out like
Yeah.
how much do we have in the tank,
Yeah.
right? Like how much of this can you do?
I got you.
And then what you can't do, we can make happen
Mhm.
in the studio
Yeah.
is the idea,
Yeah.
right? Because when you listen to those famous Jack Douglas records, right, they're heavily layered. I mean, I don't know how closely you've listened to like Toys in the Attic, the album Toys in the Attic, but it's a real ride. It's like on a level with an album like Sgt. Pepper. It's extremely textured, right? It's not just like a straight up your nose hard rock record like Back in Black. Steven Tyler and Joe Perry are very high, they're high caliber recording artists,
Mm.
right? And not to take anything away from Brad Whitford, you know, the other guitarist, because a lot of people mistakenly think that they're listening to Joe Perry. They're actually listening to Brad Whitford.
Mm.
And a lot of the Aerosmith classic music. It's a woven
Yeah.
texture,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I got you.
It's designed to be that way.
Yeah.
And when they play live, it's effective that way. But what you're really fixated on is Steven Tyler and Joe Perry,
Right.
right? Because those are the shapes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I got you. Yeah.
But so Jack wants to see us live. So we go
Mhm.
to SIR and, you know, we perform for a day, essentially, you know, trying to going through all sorts of songs because we got a lot of songs, first of all.
Yeah.
So he's just trying to sort out like, okay, well,
Yeah.
you know, what's smoking? You know, what's happening?
Mhm.
But he's really just trying to get a feel for me. I think that's the main objective. He's trying to figure out like what kind of performer am I and how does my voice hold up? That's why he also just kind of wanted me singing like I'm in a club because he wanted to see how much range, not only how much range do I have, but how much stamina like do I have? Because these things also come into play in a recording environment, right? You might only be good for 3 takes. In some cases, you don't get good until the 7th take.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
He's just putting you through the paces.
Yeah. And of course, I've been putting myself through the paces for years
Yeah.
before I ever met him. So, you know, I come in like a quote unquote bucking bronco.
Strutting.
You know what I mean? It's like you got to tell me to do less
Yeah.
stuff, not
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
and he liked that. You know, I came in as like a muscular or an athletic
Mhm.
performer, right?
Yeah.
So he liked that. That kind of brought him some comfort. That I wasn't going to like blow my voice out in 30 minutes.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That I could sing for like 90 minutes.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with that being said, he laid plans to get into the studio. So we went to a smaller studio called Chungking House of Metal.
Okay.
That happens to be the same studio where the Beastie Boys cut their debut album.
Wow.
That's also the same studio where Run DMC cut Kings of Rock.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's a small, trashy studio in Chinatown. And I say trashy, not to be disrespectful, but
That's just what it was.
I just remember it just being rough.
Yeah.
You know, like it
Yeah.
was not like it was not Media Sound.
Yeah.
Media Sound was in a restored church, like a cathedral,
Mhm.
right? And then we would wind up at the Record Plant, which is kind of like one of the cornerstone studios in the world.
I mean,
right?
that's where everybody
Yeah, a
records.
Record Plant is the only if you got to step up from the Record Plant, it might be Abbey Road
Yeah.
in London.
I mean, didn't Jimmy record there?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that, I was in the same studio where Hendrix was recording Electric Ladyland, Studio B. Because it was Jack's studio of choice where he recorded all the Aerosmith records were cut in that studio.
And you were in the room where Hendrix recorded Electric Ladyland.
That same studio.
Wow.
Yeah. Of course, they told me that a little further down the
Yeah.
road because
Yeah.
that might have been.
Yeah, that might have been your moment of, oh, shit.
I don't know. You
Well,
know,
maybe, yeah.
Let's face it. I mean, I've been working in studios for a while by then.
Yeah,
so,
but yeah, I
so
guess
I
at
wasn't
this point.
I wasn't going to get cold feet or
Sure.
anything crazy
Sure,
like
sure,
that.
sure.
But you know what I'm saying. But what was
God.
fun about it was he had so many different anecdotes about other sessions that he had cut in that room. You
Mhm.
know, and the way he was, what was cool about Jack was that he made everything like non-plus. Like everything was like casual. Nothing was like super grandiose. The only kind of grandiose thing that he ever pulled on me was he took me up to the first of all, the record plant in Manhattan is on 48th Street between 8th and 9th Avenue.
Okay.
Right. And the reason that Hendrix liked to record there, because it was around the corner from a nightclub that he frequented called The Scene, like Steve Paul's Scene.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
And I might have mentioned in passing when Tommy Shannon was in Johnny Winter,
Mm-hmm.
Steve Paul was their manager.
Okay. Yes. Yes, you did mention that.
So he had this club that was kind of like a speakeasy for rock stars. And it was around the corner from the record plant. And Hendrix would frequent that nightclub because it only opened from midnight till 6 a.m. So Jimmy would roll in there sometime at whatever, 2 or 3 a.m, and then get warmed up and jam with various people because there was always musicians to jam with. I mean, Tommy Shannon told me the first time he met Hendrix, Hendrix wanted to play bass.
Oh, really?
Play his bass.
Play Tommy's
He
bass.
said somebody was tapping me on the shoulder, and I looked over my shoulder. It's like,
This freaking Hendrix wanted to play your.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But then Jimmy would get warmed up, and then he would bring a whole entourage of people from the studio back over to the record plant.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that upset his manager more than anything, was that he had all these hanging on these people just literally in the studio
Just sitting.
on general principle
Yeah.
for no reason,
Other than to hang.
because he just liked being around people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was his thing. They wound up, Hendrix's manager wound up quitting because of it, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was like, look, because by now he's full-blown Jimi Hendrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's essentially producing his sessions at leisure, but it's getting into like, you know, track 27, take 27,
Oh, yeah.
take 28,
Oh, what a
take,
grind.
you know. And then Chaz, the original manager, was saying, like, we used to do these in two or three takes.
Yeah. What are we doing here?
Because we used to not have money, and we used to have to do it. And we used to get it done. So we cut like Are You Experienced in like 3 weeks. The whole album was like done.
Wow.
We've been in this studio now for like 9 months.
Got 150 tracks to pull through.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway, I digress. Well, Jack took me up to, I think it was like the second floor. There was like Studio D and Studio E. Downstairs was Studio A, B, and C. And I remember when we were in Studio B, Santana was in Studio A.
At the same time.
Uh-huh. And Aerosmith was upstairs in Studio D. And we went up to the lobby in studio on the second floor. And I kid you not, Stephen. Okay, so here's the thing. Like you've seen those big ornamental guitars around the city?
Yeah.
Like in front of buildings?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There was like a Martin acoustic guitar, the size of one of those ornamental guitars.
Really?
That was like a real
Martin
playable
guitar. Martin. Yeah.
And he told me the story there was a famous engineer at the record plant named Shelly Yakis. That was John Lennon's engineer. Is actually a partner of Jack Douglas's, but he was John Lennon's engineer of choice because Jack was the producer, right? Now, Jack can produce and engineer, obviously, because he was a tape runner long before he was a producer. That's how you become a producer, is that you have to master the board, right? But Jack loved to tell me this story. It's like, you see that big ass guitar? He goes, Shelly Yakis had that guitar made for John Lennon for a birthday present. Because John Lennon used to tell Shelly all the time, it's like, I want a really big guitar sound. I want a really big acoustic guitar sound. So
That's
goes,
cool.
So this guy paid.
What a story.
He said he paid something like $25,000, to Martin, right? To make this damn thing to scale. He wanted the same size, a guitar the same size as John Lennon.
I wonder where that guitar lives right now.
It's probably still at the record plant.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it being anyplace else.
Yeah.
It's been
That's
there
true.
all this
Yeah.
time.
Maybe at the Martin factory, if not, but yeah, that's cool.
He'd take me to different little stairwells and things and say, yeah, we recorded such and such over here with so-and-so, because he did records with like Patti Smith, Graham Parker and Rumor, Hart, Cheap Trick, Mountain, Lou Reed, just a whole litany, In the 70s, he was literally like the guy.
He was the man.
As far as rock music was concerned. He was like the dude.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he was in your corner.
Which is why I was all in.
Yeah.
And so the idea was this. So I was telling you about the audit and all of that, right? So I kind of diverted away. The idea was that by the time he got the settlement from the Lennon estate, after all of the back and forth about it, he had like millions in back payments in a windfall.
Oh, wow.
So his plan was to start a boutique label of his own called Supertrack. He had a deal on the table essentially with EMI Records to distribute his boutique label.
Yeah.
And he wanted to sign 4 artists that year. And I was the first one that he picked.
Wow.
So that was my grounding.
Yeah.
The idea being, okay, so I signed with him a production contract that said that under the auspices, in other words, I signed a contract with Shake the Earth that they signed with Jack. You feel me?
Yeah.
And you'll understand this because this is that sort of thing, right? It's like I'm signed with the production company that is also my management team. And then they signed me over to Jack as an artist.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
And then they cut a deal with the record plant to where they would offset a discounted service rate.
I see.
For daily studio time because he was entitled to get me a low rate while we're in experimental phase.
Right.
Until we got a product to hand over to EMI. Then we hand over the product to EMI. EMI gives him the elephant check. And then he gives me the advance.
Gotcha.
You feel me?
Yep.
He gets like the lion's share, the so-called, master payment.
Right.
And then I get the subsidiary.
Yep.
For my services, plus the advance for our term. Because we hadn't determined how long I was going to stay contracted to Supertrack. Right? Until we have a tangible product to sell.
Right.
Okay, so that was the agreement. So everybody's on a handshake, essentially. So we're going in the record plant, essentially on Jack's dime, and every time the record plant asks for like a monthly or bi-weekly installment for the time that we've spent, because we're basically in there on lockouts, right? Like we weren't in there for 2 or 3 hours at a time. We were in there for 2 or 3 days at a time.
Yeah.
You dig what I mean?
You're sleeping there.
And that's why nobody's telling me this shit ain't gonna happen. Because we're in the record plant, like we're dug in, bro.
Yeah,
we're in
you
there.
got Santana playing above you or
Well,
adjacent to you.
it's not that. It's like I'm in there.
Yeah.
I'm literally like in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's my point. Is you're making it happen where it's happening. You were there,
and it is killing.
Mhm.
The Sonics are like killing. You feel me?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So people are like poking their head in the door. Malcolm Young pokes his head in the door. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Angus Young pokes his head in the door. What's going on in here?
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Carlos Santana pokes his head in the door. It's like, bro, yeah. You couldn't have told me we weren't going to blow up,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we weren't operating in a vacuum. We're with Jack Douglas, right?
Yeah.
This guy does not play.
No.
He is not throwing wiffle balls. So here we are. By now it's November. And I get some notification from my baby sister that my mom has a court date coming up.
Mm.
And I need to come back to Texas to deal with preparations for her court date. My sister's going to meet me there from LA. And between November and December, we just all circle the wagons for Christmas.
Mm.
So I'm on hiatus from the sessions. I'm literally like 6 tracks deep into the album by now. We've already got like sub mixes. We haven't gotten to the finale to where we still got 4 tracks to go. We're going to record 10 songs before we go to EMI, with the thing.
Yeah.
Because he wants to do the type of deal similar to the type of deal that Led Zeppelin had with Atlantic, which is to say, like, look, this is all out of my pocket,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is going to be like a licensing deal that you're doing with me.
I see.
But I'm going to own these.
Yeah.
I'm going to own these masters, so to speak, for the duration of my contract with this artist. So we've gotten to the point where I'm at this time, I probably have maybe 3 or 4 submasters on a cassette.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's real to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, there it is.
You're holding it.
I'm in Texas dealing with the legalese of trying to keep my mom from going up on a manslaughter charge.
Yeah.
And we go through that until February and determine that my mother is basically going to not receive a jail sentence. It's going to be basically, an accidental death. So she's not going to be doing any time or anything like that. But the commitment for the attorneys that we had to commit to, I had to meet my sister halfway with those. And that was a considerable amount of what advance I already had received from Jack. But I was happy to do it because I knew that there was going to be more coming down the road.
Yeah.
Well, the story takes an unfortunate turn because when I get back in March, then I realized that there is something amiss because we don't have another set schedule of recordings on my docket. I usually would get like a letter, like a notification from Waterfront Productions, from Jack's recording studio, from his production company.
Yeah.
And it would basically just be like an itinerary and say, okay, starting on this date, we're going to be here from this to this, and then on this to this to this, then we're taking hiatus from here to here, and then we're back from blah to blah, that sort of thing. And I didn't get that. And so I started calling Anthony to kind of put 2 and 2 together, like what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, at this time, I get information from Lynn, the publicist, that Anthony is overseas with Bad Brains. They've started their European tour for this album that came out last fall. And he's going to be, overseas for several weeks or whatever. Talk to Andy, the day-to-day handler. And I talked to Andy, and Andy's going like, well, something's amiss because there's talk about a check that didn't clear properly or something like that, and we're trying to sort this out, blah, blah, blah. And this thing like snowballs from one week to the next week to the week after that to the week after that.
Yep.
And then it sadly comes to my attention that there's like an internal audit being conducted from Jack's production company against Shake the Earth, which is, our production company, because there's some funds missing. There's some 2 checks have like bounced.
I see.
And now it's starting to get extremely vague because I can't get anybody to come to the table to sit down with me and tell me exactly what indeed is at the
What's
root
going
of
on?
this situation.
Yeah.
So the short story is that we can't go back into the studio until these checks get cleared.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, these checks are not getting cleared because our team is claiming that the checks are good. His team is claiming that the checks are not good. Somebody's wrong, and
Right.
what is going on? Now, meanwhile, I'm sitting here in a state of shock, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
going like, well, what in the world is this supposed to mean? Because it's like I'm waiting for the bus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. You got your bags in hand. You're just ready for the pickup, man.
Yeah, man. But for all intents and purposes, it goes radio silent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about for 30 days. I can't get anybody to call me back. I can't call.
Oof.
I try to call Jack. Jack doesn't return my calls. I'm calling my day-to-day, and I'm just getting voicemail, right? Something is completely haywire.
Yeah.
So this drags on for about 2 months. And as we get closer from May going into June, I finally get a piece of letter from the mail from this attorney who's telling me that there is basically a binary dispute in play between these 2 factions, right? And that my services are in suspense until that there's some sort of settlement to this dispute between Jack's production company and my management team.
Yeah.
And that literally just put me in a lurch. And I'm telling you, from the time that I got that letter, I went into a spiral. Because it was like a combination between rage and despair. And it got so heavy that I literally started having a suicidal ideation. I told my sister about it. And my little sister was saying, listen, I want you to hear this, and I want you to hear this well. We just lost our dad. Don't even play with me about losing my brother. She said, I want you to pack your shit
Get the hell out of Dodge.
and come out here and just be with me until we can figure out what the hell needs to happen next, right? But see, she's talking to me from not just the sisterhood, she's talking to me from the aspect of like, what makes sense,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She's like, you don't know what you don't know. You can't even start going down a dark process of thought like that. We don't know what we don't know. And so we need to figure it out. And I need you to have a sense of a soft landing for the time being.
Right.
And I would personally just love to spend more time with you anyway. I haven't seen you in years, apart from, these little visits that we've had since the incident.
Mm-hmm.
Come out here and just unpack and let's decompress and let's just see where this whole thing goes.
Thanks for listening. Know someone we should talk to? Give us a shout on Instagram at Austin Music People. Tell your friends, tell your family, and get out there and support Austin music.